At Truliant, we're with you at every milestone, making it easier for you to shine. So you can saddle up each morning for more than a paycheck. Have the support to expand your horizon, the space to grow your family, and your brightest dreams never have to fade. At Truliant, we help you shine. That's brighter banking. Truliant Federal Credit Union.
Welcome to the Greater Conversations podcast. I'm Deetra Miller, the Director of Member Relations and Engagement at Greater Winston-Salem, Inc. We'll use this platform to showcase our local businesses, our community, and their stories. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I am super excited to introduce you to someone that you may have heard of or maybe not. His name is Stan Parker, and he is the president of Winston Starts. I'm so excited to have you here today, Stan. Welcome.
Thank you, Deetra. I appreciate the invitation.
Oh, you're so welcome. So for anyone, again, that doesn't know about Winston Starts, I'm going to share just a little description to help you understand what they do. So they help entrepreneurs successfully scale their businesses to new heights. I love that. And they provide development framework, valuable resources, and a long runway that entrepreneurs need to grow their businesses and realize their dreams. How simple and amazing is that, Stan?
It's a great mission. It's easy to come to work every day with a mission like that.
I bet it is. So before we get into the nuts and bolts of Winston Starts and how you do what you do for entrepreneurs, let's talk a little bit about you. So I love the fact that you were named a 2022 Power Player by Biz Journals. That's fun. And I'm sure there's a lot of other fun things that people don't know about you. So share a little bit.
Sure. Thank you. Well, I was born in Chapel Hill, so I'm a North Carolinian.
Really?
Grew up next door in Hillsborough in a working class family. My dad had a couple of side hustles. They didn't call him that back then, but he was an usher at the basketball games at Carolina, and he parked cars at the football games, and he started taking me over there when I was about 8 years old, and it had a big impact on my life. And so my earliest goal was to go to Carolina and play college basketball, and I did both of those things, just not at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Was not good enough to play basketball for Coach Smith, but I did play basketball at Belmont Abbey, where I went undergrad and got an undergraduate degree in business administration. And when I left there, I moved to New York and worked for an oil company called Caltex Petroleum for about 5 years. I was in New York and Dallas and Singapore. Wow. And came back after working for about 5 years, came back to Chapel Hill to get my MBA in 1986. And then came to Winston-Salem in 1988 to work for Haynes.
Yes. So you've worked for Haynes and you've worked for Krispy Kreme as well?
Yes, that's right. Good memory. I was at Haynes for about 10 years. Just a wonderful work experience, being around folks like Paul Fulton and Jack Ward and Joe Neely, and just looking back on it, it was a wonderful work experience. Wow. Left after 10 years and went over to Krispy Kreme. I was there for 11 years. Also a great experience.
When was this that you were at Krispy Kreme?
I started at Krispy Kreme in 1998. Okay. So prior to going public, I was hired to help create a marketing department. It was a privately owned company, but a relatively small company. And so I was there about a year and a half before we went public, had a great IPO, and the next 4 years were fantastic. We were on the cover of a Fortune magazine and kind of hit the wall, and some tough times for the next 3 years. So I got through that and was there a few more years and left after about 11 years.
Wow.
Started my own, most of my background is brand strategy and marketing, and started consulting, and not too long into that was hired to run a startup company that was spun out of Wake Forest Baptist. So that was a great experience for the job I'm in now.
Excellent. Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about Winston Starts and the startup life.
Yes. Yes. Well, Winston Starts is a fantastic organization. We're in our 6th year.
Just 6 years.
Just 6 years. So we're kind of a startup too, in some ways. And it was started by Don Flo and John Whitaker and a few other folks. Really, they were looking around and going, where are the new jobs going to come from in Winston-Salem? This was probably 8 years or so ago, and they went around the country and studied different cities and how they were helping startups. There's a lot of different models, a lot of different ways to do it, and ended up the model that we use, which is we help scalable companies that have already gotten started. They've formed, they've got a little bit of traction, maybe they've got some sales or they've got some customer validation for a beta or a prototype, and they have a presence here in Winston-Salem. They would be good candidates for us. So they come in and to Winston Starts, and we help several ways. We have some just wonderful workspace, state-of-the-art workspace in 500 West 5th Street. We're on the 4th and 5th floor. It's about 35,000 square feet. So a founder can come in, get great workspace, Wi-Fi, mail service, conference rooms, there's kitchens, there's parking, garage parking. They even have access to the fitness center on the second floor.
Nice.
Yes. And so the space is wonderful, but I think the secret sauce really is the mentor network. Mm-hmm. We've got about 100 mentors.
100?
Yeah. Wow. They're not all active at one time, but they volunteer. They represent a wide range of industries, different functional area expertise. And so what we try to do is match the founder up with the mentor that they need at that time. And we tell founders you can have one mentor, you can have 10 mentors, and whatever you want. We just try to meet them where they are with what they need when they need it. And they can probably what makes us most unique is that founders can be in Winston Starts up to 42 months. A lot of these programs are, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, cohort based. But we, Don and John and the founders wanted to make sure that folks had enough time to be successful. We give them a long runway and a low burn rate. It just costs them $150 a month to be in for all these things. And so in addition to the space and mentors, we've got some educational programming. We have speakers, workshops, networking events to help them along. They don't have to be in there 42 months.
Okay.
I like to say that they can leave. It's like Verizon. We don't have a contract, so you can leave when you like. But we want to give them enough time. It's a term called pivoting when you start out doing one thing and you get some feedback and you have to make a pivot. And often, a founder will make one or two pivots, 3 pivots, and we want to give them time to do that and the help to do it.
Talk a little bit about the education piece that you offer.
Sure. So the first thing we do as part of the onboarding process is we use something called the Lean Canvas. It was adapted from something originally called the Business Canvas. It's a pretty simple model. It's a one-pager. It's got 9 boxes on it, and it's kind of a sequence you need to go through with things like who's your customer, what's the problem, what's your solution, what's the value proposition. And we use that as an audit to see where they are. And our mentors are all in those boxes too. And so the first thing we do is use that to help them create a plan. Mm-hmm. Now, that plan's going to change, but it helps create focus and say, these are some things you need to worry about, but not right now. This is what you need to focus on. So that's what we do first. Usually the second thing they'll do, not all of our founders are needing to raise money, but most of them are so that they can scale. So we've got a great course called Investor Readiness and Raise that teaches them, here are all the sources of money. Here are the pros and cons of each of these. Here's how you pitch to these groups. Here's how you set up a data room. Here's how you do a cap table, and demystifies some of that for them. And then we do not invest in them. We're a nonprofit, but we can get them in front of investors when they're ready. One of the ways we do that is we have an annual investor forum in March, and it's kind of like a friendly Shark Tank.
Ooh, nice. Okay.
And the founders get up on stage, and they get to do their pitch. much like Shark Tank, and we have investors there. And so there's a little bit of prize money, but the main thing is it gives them practice and it gives them exposure. And so that's another thing we do. And then we'll bring in speakers, people. We've got something called the Founders Forum where we'll bring in people who've done it, been there, done it, so that they can share their learnings, what worked, what didn't work, and their philosophy, and get them exposure. And then probably the best learning that actually happens is founder to founder. We've helped, in the last 6 years, we've helped about 91 companies. We have 35 in right now. And, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, I think in a short period of time, and so the founders, they may be 6 months or 12 months ahead of you in different business, but they've just been through some things that they can help you with. So I think the opportunity just to engage with other founders in the space is really important.
Wow, I love that. Okay, for the folks that are listening, define for them the difference between a scalable startup and like your Main Street business.
Sure. We use those terms, and people have different definitions, but a Main Street company is largely going to be operating where they are. It may be a job for themselves or the family. Think about a landscaper, a hair salon, something like that, and probably no intention, or at least initially plans, to grow beyond where you live. Scalable companies will, they're going to go beyond where they live, and hopefully into across the state, across the country, and across the world eventually. So that would be, and often scalable businesses are looking for investors like venture capital.
What type of businesses are drawn to Winston Starts?
That's a great question. A lot of times folks like us will focus on a particular vertical. We don't. We're agnostic on the type of business, as long as it's a scalable business model, a reasonable path to commercializing, a founder's presence in Winston-Salem. You're a great candidate for us. So we have B2B, we have B2C, we have a little bit of manufacturing, retail, a fair amount of tech. But we've got a wide range of companies. Founders, a real diverse founder group. Nearly half of our founders are women and minorities.
Really?
Wide range of ages. It's not all like 23-year-olds. And that lends to I think the value of sharing experiences in the space between the founders.
Talk a little bit about the structure for the mentorship, because with that many success stories, I just imagine there is a structure in such a way that there's no way they could fail. If they come to Winston Starts, they're going to get the right mentorship, they're going to have the right education, they're going to have the right programming, and they're going to succeed, whether they're there for 4 months or 42.
Yeah, well, that's it's a lot of things goes into success. First and foremost, you've got to be doing something that somebody wants, and someone is solving a problem that someone has, or giving them an experience they'd like to have. And two, it needs to be unique. Why you? If you can do that, and you're willing to work really hard and be resilient, because you're going to have some setbacks along the way. So a unique idea that's solving a problem, hard work, really hard work, being resilient, maybe being a little lucky. Hopefully we can come in and make a difference for you and get you across the goal line. But probably 90% of startups fail. So these are brave folks who are willing to go out there and take a major part of their life and put it behind the business.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Tell us one of your favorite stories of a startup that you've helped over the past couple of years or so.
Yeah, well, they're like children, right? You love them all the same. But probably one of my more favorite ones is a recent one, and it was three young guys. They were all recent graduates of NC State. They're engineers. I think two of them are mechanical and one's electrical. They're both undergrad and master's programs. One of them in the master's program had an internship where he was working with a commercial construction company. And he noticed on site that sometimes materials would come in, say a beam, and it just didn't fit, right?
Okay.
So it had to be modified. So that meant maybe a welder had to be brought to the site to make a cut. Worst case, they had to send that part back somewhere, so it delayed everything. So this is a big problem. Time is money. And so he thought, well, maybe we can develop like this robotic arm with an attachment to it to be able to do a cutting, and depending on the type of material you're trying to cut. We can create a software program and run it through an iPad to do this stuff. And they did that as a project. Well, and it turned out, just as they were graduating, we got introduced to them, and they came out to the makerspace and did a demo for us. And we brought a guy, a local construction guy that does a lot of construction time with us because we don't know anything about construction. And Josh, one of the founders, walks up, and it's in a 40-pound, it's in a little case. He sets it up in about 5 minutes, programs it, does his cut, precision cut. We turn to the guy, to the expert, and he goes, well, how much does this thing cost? And Josh said, we're thinking about $7,500. And he goes, $7,500? That'll break even in less than a month. And the reason we said, you're in. And they came in, actually, they hadn't graduated yet. This was probably in March. Wow. They graduated in May. All three of them had jobs. One by one, they quit the regular job, and they made some improvements to the product, figured out that they could charge more by talking to customers. And they would go out, and almost every time they demoed it, they would sell one. Wow. And they came into an investment group here in Winston-Salem called WHISPER, Winston-Salem Partners Roundtable, who have formed to invest in early-stage companies with presence in Winston-Salem, and got a record amount of initial funding. Wow. Over $400,000. So the reason I love it, they identified a real problem that no one else was addressing. It's very hard to be unique, and they came up with a unique solution, and they're off and running.
I love that.
That's a little bit of a long story, but and that's the key: uniquely solve a problem.
I love that.
Yeah.
What makes Winston Starts different from other accelerators that are in other states, if you will? What is it that you could share with someone listening today that may be in another county or another state to be drawn to Winston?
Sure. I think a few things. One is the amount of time, the 42 months. I can't emphasize how critical it is you're just going to need time. And then you need nurturing, and I think I mentioned the programs we have. The mentorship is very important, and then Winston-Salem is such a unique city. We've got incredible resources here for a city our size. There's financial resources. There's wealth in this town that indexes higher than probably most places our size. There's intellectual capacity here, the universities, the hospital system. And then there's this third element of people, just collaboration and willingness to help. That if someone can't help you, they probably know someone who can, and they'll call them and ask them, and then they will help. That's hard to have, I think, in larger cities. And there's such pride, and people are just almost tripping over themselves to help these founders. Wow. And so I think it differentiates us from most places.
Love that. I love that, Stan.
Yeah.
There's something else that you have done recently. You guys took on Converge South.
Yes.
And you recently had another Converge South. Talk a little bit about what Converge South is and what folks could look out for when they get ready to buy their tickets for the next one.
Yeah, sure. So Converge South and Peter Marsh, would give a big shout out to Peter Marsh and his team. They held it last week. I believe it was Thursday and Friday down in the Innovation Quarter. Attracted probably about 75 companies from across the Southeast. also attracted investors, and it was a combination of an opportunity for these companies to get in front of investors. There was also some educational programming there, great networking, and I think Winston-Salem just put its best foot forward down there. There were people coming in from, across the state, Atlanta, Charleston, Columbia, and I think they left here going, wow. Between the types of companies that were there, the types of investors that were there, the hospitality of the city. It was just a great event. And so, I think it shows anytime we can have someone come to Winston-Salem and they see what we have to offer, a lot of times they'll leave and go, I had no idea. Mm-hmm. And so they go back to wherever they're from and they tell folks about it. And so it's a great event for Winston-Salem to get exposure.
I love that. Mm. Everyone listening, we've got the investors here. We've got the community here. We've got people that want to help you here. What are you excited about? What's coming up next for you?
Sure. We historically, so for 6 years, we've kind of focused on companies that had scalable business models, as I mentioned, and already had a little bit of traction. They had formed their business and had their product, and they just needed help. But there's a stage before that. It's called the idea stage, where I've got this idea, but we didn't support that. We had the resources to support that. So we're introducing something called Explore, which is simply designed for I've got an idea. What do I do? And so we will help them flesh out that idea. We'll help them, most importantly, go talk to folks to make sure it's something that they value. It's an important step that's missed sometimes to go out and make sure it's called, validate the idea, and then help them create a plan to form their business and prototype the product and go out and get and get some more experience and feedback from founders. And then, if they'd like, they're set up to come into our traditional programming after they do that. So we're going to introduce that. If we say it's at the top of the funnel, idea stage.
I love that. Yeah. That's available now?
Starting in January.
Starting in January.
We had a little trial pilot program this year. We're tweaking a little bit, and then we'll kick it off, the new program, in January.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so for any founder that's listening and they're ready to join Winston Starts, what do they need to do? Yes, please contact me. And you can get me at stan.parker@winstonstarts.com. And you can go to winston.starts.com. You can see about our programming and our mentors and all, and the way we support founders. And I would love to talk to you and give you a tour and talk to you about joining us. I love that. Stan, is there anything that we didn't talk about today that we need to touch on that people listening really need to know? Yes, thanks, Deidre. I think we are a nonprofit. We rely on individual donations, sponsorships, some grants. There's a nominal fee, as I mentioned, paid by the founders. So we need help, donations, or if you'd like to be a mentor, if you have a topic you think our founders might enjoy hearing about, we need speakers. So would love to find a way to get you engaged with us, and so that you can join us in helping Winston-Salem be a better place to live, work, and play. I love that. Excellent. All right, so everyone listening, please make sure that you reach out to Stan. Please make sure that if you're interested in donating, they're a nonprofit. There's your tax write-off for the year. Don't forget about that. You'd be helping some amazing people do some amazing things in an amazing city. Stan, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Deidre. And for everyone listening, until next time. We know you enjoyed this podcast today, so join us for the next episode of Greater Conversations. By the way, you can follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Be sure to smash that subscribe button. Also, be sure to visit our website at winston-salem.com. The views and opinions stated in this podcast are solely those of the contributors and not necessarily those of our sponsors, distributors, or hosting companies. This podcast is copyrighted and cannot be reproduced without expressed written consent of Greater Winston-Salem, Inc. or your toast.